Chapter 13. Suddenly someone spoke. Andrew was about to punish Sebastian when a group of people approached. A young and beautiful woman led a group of bodyguards as if she were a queen and they were her men. "What are you doing here, Ms. Green?" Andrew asked, and his anger disappeared immediately. "Why can't I be here? My family owns this hotel. As for all of you making a scene here, aren't you insulting my family?" Natalie, Sebastian's secretary, arrives. He is also the son of one of the 4 prestigious families in Ravenview City, the Greens. Although it was surprising at first that a female heiress became a secretary, it was actually a smart decision on Natalie's part. Especially the title of Secretary of the Supreme One was greater compared to his title as the heir of his family. His entire family also benefited from his position. For example, Andrew Miller didn't try too hard to make a scene now that Natalie was here. "Don't be mad, Ms. Green. I'm only here because the Caldwell family asked for my help to teach someone a lesson. I just need a few minutes to finish this before I leave your hotel," Andrew said in a very humble tone. "Who is this person?" Natalie asked. "Hey." Andrew pointed to Sebastian. Natalie grinned. "I advise you not to play with fire, Tiger. Just hold a hair on Mister's head. Wilder and I promise the return will be intense." "Are you protecting him?" "Yes. No one can hurt Mr. Yes. No one can hurt Mr. Wilder now as long as I'm here," Natalie said firmly. Andrew looked nervous. He promised the Cadwell family that he would help them since they let him take one of their children a few days ago. If he couldn't even put away something as small as this swindler as the Cadwells requested, and the first time they even asked for help, he would be too embarrassed. "What if I insist?" Andrew replied coldly. "You can try." Natalie waved and her bodyguards immediately got ready. All of these bodyguards had fought in the war, so none of them were afraid of the Shadow Tiger clan. The truth is, they even have the will to fight them all. Andrew exclaimed in shock, "I'm just giving you respect for the Supreme One, Ms. Green. Don't be abusive. In that case, you know that the Supreme One supports me. In that case, you should leave with your people, but I will call the Supreme One immediately." "Who do you think he's on? Me or you?" Natalie raised her phone teasingly. Andrew stared at Natalie for a long time before choosing to leave. "Come on. Andrew may be the king of the underworld of Ravenview City, but he is nothing compared to the Supreme One. Natalie is the Supreme One's secretary, and they might be having a relationship. Do you know, so if he really calls for his help, the sun will never shine on Andrew." "Don't leave, Mr. Miller," Fisk shouted. He and his family are now in a panic. But Andrew ignored him and quickly left with his people. It happened that Sebastian finished the last glass of his wine. He stood up to face the Cadwell family before saying, "I told you that I will not be afraid even if you send the god here. Now, do you believe me? You haven't won yet, kid. Even though Ms. Green defended you today, I'm going to punish you too. Come on, let's go." Fisk snorted before getting ready to leave the hotel. "Did I say you can leave?" He signaled to his guards to surround Fisk and company. "Hey, what does this mean, Ms. Green?" Fisk asked in disbelief. Natalie ignored him and asked Sebastian, "How do you want to punish them, Mr. Wilder?" The Lisbons and Cadwell's expressions changed upon hearing this. "I think you're mistaken, Ms. Green. He's just a fraud who came here and made a scene at my daughter's wedding. We can tolerate you not giving us an explanation even if you are the owner of the hotel, but now you still care about his opinion? That's nonsense," Fisk shouted angrily. Natalie spoke with a smile. "Mr. Wilder is my friend. If he fights him, I will be your enemy. He will decide how to put you away." "It's impossible. He's just a cheater." "How did you become his friend?" Daphne asked in disbelief. "That's right, Ms. Green, don't fool him. We were engaged before, but he was too difficult for me to like him. How can someone like him be your friend?" Maria's complaint. Do you have to tell me who I should be friends with? Natalie's eyes flashed fiercely before she continued to await Sebastian's orders. Sebastian stretched his back and said lazily, "You wanted to feed me some dog food earlier, didn't you? Why don't we prepare a bowl for each of you? You can run away when you finish it, but if you don't, I'll feed you all to the wolves." Chapter 14. In the face of Natalie's threat, they could do nothing but give up and eat dog food on the floor. At that moment, safety comes before dignity. Clement and his companions were filled with hatred towards Sebastian. He was the reason why they endured shame. Clement silently promised that he would pay Sebastian no matter what. Elijah and Lillian remained outside the hotel staring at the door as they nervously waited for Sebastian to arrive. As the Shadow Tiger members left, they thought about going inside to investigate, but were prevented from entering by the hotel guard. They thought about stopping them and they were very worried. However, only Elijah and Lillian were concerned. The rest of the family didn't care if Sebastian was alive or dead. If they weren't afraid of making Elijah angry, they would have left a long time ago. Lucas got bored waiting. He said, "Grandpa, Shadow Tiger's people are gone. They might have finished Sebastian. There's no point in waiting. The hotel staff might be removing his body." Elijah sighed. "Anyway, he saved my life. We should retrieve his remains later." "Why are you talking so early in the morning?" A mischievous voice interrupted them, and suddenly, Sebastian appeared in front of them. "Mr. Wilder, are you safe?" Elijah couldn't believe it. His other companions also had the same expression. "How could I not be safe? If it wasn't for the delicious wine, I would have gotten out sooner." Sebastian answered simply, "Didn't Mr. Miller torture you?" Lillian asked in shock. In his mind, the Shadow Tiger member was fierce. Even if they didn't kill Sebastian, they would leave him seriously wounded. But here he was now, standing before them without a scratch. "No, Ms. Green kicked them out," Sebastian explained. "Why would Ms. Green fire Mr. Miller over something so small?" Ronan frowned in surprise. "It's like this, I used to treat Ms. Green so she owes me something," explained Sebastian. Elijah nodded in understanding. "Ah, I understand now. That's why you're not worried. Ms. Green owes you something." By the way, Ms. Green acted quickly. She was able to get close to the Supreme One quietly. "The Green family will surely rise soon," said Ronan. Lucas interjected, feeling annoyed. "If he can get close to the Supreme One, so can we. Why don't we visit him right away?" "That won't work." Ronan shook his head. "I went to the Phoenix Corporation for the past few days, but the Supreme One refused to see me. You weren't even allowed in, but Lillian might be able to," Lucas suggested as he meaningfully turned to her. Lillian was angry. "What do you mean? Are you saying I should sacrifice my dignity to get close to him? The Supreme One is the best man in the world. So many women have dreamed of marrying him. And there is a queue of people willing to be his woman." "I can't believe you don't think anything of her," Belinda said scornfully, believing that Lillian was only pretending to be noble. Lillian sighed. "Okay, the Supreme One is great, but haven't you heard the talk? They say he's old and, I'm sorry, ugly. When he showed interest in me, I would have nightmares every night." Beside him, Sebastian couldn't help but laugh at that rumor. How did he, who was a young and handsome man, become an ugly old man of gossip? "What's wrong with age?" Belinda shook her head. "It's about what a man can do, not how old he is. And the looks? That's rubbish. Good looks can't feed you." Belinda looked at Sebastian. "He's handsome, but what? All he knows how to do is show off and make trouble. Any girl who goes home with him is probably crazy." Sebastian felt annoyed. He was just standing there, but he suddenly shrank even though he didn't need to. "Does he look easy to trip over?" Lucas nodded along with his mother. "Mom's right. He's not special except for his good looks. Compared to the Supreme One, he's nothing." Lillian, you should really consider getting close to the Supreme One. If he likes you, it will help the Smith family a lot.